Well, today I'd like to talk to you about the last aim of scouting. We've covered citizenship and fitness, so let's talk about character development. What is a character? That's an important thing to understand and know. I don't know if I have a magic solution to that, but I think I have some examples and some ideas that can get you thinking. We're going to have a lot of our own thoughts that we're going to share with each other today as we progress. I'll be adding my thoughts. You'll be adding yours to the ideas of many other great people, and we can see what we can get through when we get to the end. I remember Rulon Skinner, a great scouter. He was scout executive in Great Salt Lake Council, and his dream was to open a beautiful scout camp in the high Uintas, a high Uinta adventure base. And he put out information to everybody and encouraged everybody to come. And he was getting excited. The camps were starting to fill. And suddenly one morning a woman marched into his office and slapped her hand down on his desk and looking him in the eye says, "What can my son get out of a week at scout camp that's possibly worth $25? Kind of dates the story, doesn't it? Well, Rulon says, "Why, madam, scouting develops character." She says, "My son's already a character. He doesn't need developing." Well, maybe that's not the type of character we're talking about, madam. No, those are my words, not Rulon Skinner's. But let's move ahead and think about those terms. You know, I'm a great Paul Harvey fan. Any Paul Harvey fans out there? Okay. Boy, that's when we got the news, wasn't it? I really got addicted to Paul Harvey this summer, or fall, late summer, early fall. I was a farmer. You wouldn't believe it to look at me, would you? But I was once engaged to a farmer's daughter. In fact, he owned most of the southwest mountains below Soda Springs and another great big farm, big dry farm out in Pocatello. Of course, by Christmas, I'd lost the daughter and the farm, but that's okay. I had some great experiences and a wonderful opportunity and went on to do very well, by the way. But maybe that was a character developing experience in itself. But another story. But my life seemed to rotate around Paul Harvey. You know, one of the things that farmers do most when they're plowing the fields is to lay underneath their machinery and bang it with their crescent wrench. I don't know why that gets it working, but it does. Every time I'd have trouble with the tractor or the discs, the farmer would show up with his big wrench and bang on it for a while, and the next thing I know, I'd be up and running again. It was really quite exciting. He let me drive it, though, and I would drive it all day. Right after breakfast, I'd get up and start driving the discs, turning the dirt in his fields that were getting ready for their winter rest. And as I plowed through the fields, I would listen to the radio, and Paul Harvey would come on 3 times a day. Right at the beginning, he came on, I believe it for about 15 minutes, just after 7, with the news update. And then at noon, he was on for a full hour. Wow, was that ever great. And we knew everything that was important in the world. And then at 4:30, oh, and by the way, I'd stop and eat my sandwich. That was part of my job. And then at 4:30, he came on with the rest of the story. And after that, I'd head back for the barn because my day's work was done. And Paul Harvey had been the center of it. I hope you all get a chance to listen to some of Paul Harvey's great speeches if you haven't heard them before. In fact, I'm going to present one to you right now. Now, his speech, like all things that we do when we share ideas with each other, came from another man, from a man named Lee Pitts. Lee Pitts wrote an essay. His essay was called "These Things I Wish for You." Paul Harvey's reading of it he calls "My Hope for You." But it doesn't matter. The ideas are beautiful. Later on, 2006, Lee Pitts actually put his ideas into this beautiful book. So they're available for you out there. But let me share parts of them with you now as we move ahead and understand a little better what character development is. Some of us are responsible for developing other people's character. Some of us are responsible for developing our own. In fact, I imagine all of us are responsible for both. So again, my thoughts shared, your thoughts shared. Let's do it. My Hope for You by Paul Harvey. We tried so hard to make things better for our kids that we made them worse. For my grandchildren, I'd like better. I'd really like for them to know about hand-me-down clothes and homemade ice cream and leftover meatloaf sandwiches. I really would. My cherished grandson, I hope you learn humility by being humiliated, that you learn honesty by being cheated. I hope you learn to make your bed and mow the lawn and wash the car. And I really hope nobody gives you a brand new car when you are 16. I hope you've got a job by then. It will be good if at least one time you can see a baby calf born and your old dog put to sleep. I hope you get a black eye fighting for something you believe in. I hope you have to share your bedroom with your younger brother. And it's all right if you have to draw a line down the middle of the room, but when he wants to crawl under the covers with you because he's scared, I hope you'll let him. When you want to see a Disney movie and your little brother wants to tag along, I hope you'll let him. I hope you have to walk uphill to school with your friends and that you live in a town where you can do it safely. On rainy days, when you have to catch a ride, I hope your driver doesn't have to drop you off 2 blocks away so you won't be seen riding with someone as uncool as your mom. If you want a slingshot, I hope your dad teaches you how to make one instead of buying one. I hope you learn to dig in the dirt and read books. And when you learn to use those newfangled computers, I hope you also learn to add and subtract in your head. Imagine when Paul Harvey was saying this and the only thing computers did was adding and subtracting. Oh well, the world changes, but the ideas make it work, that make it go around and make us have better character. They don't change. I hope you get razzed by your friends when you have your first crush on a girl, and when you talk back to your mother that you learn what Ivory soap tastes like. Yes, I had my mouth washed out with soap a couple of times. It only took a couple for me to learn there were certain words that you don't talk about around Mom, and I still can't say them. Life goes on, but that was great. May you skin your knee climbing a mountain, burn your hand on the stove, and stick your tongue to a frozen flagpole. Now at Camp Lowell, I point out that in early summer they can do all 3 of those things at Camp Lowell if they can find a metal flagpole. But skinned knees and burnt hands are quite common as scouts go out into the wilderness and fight the battle of character development. I hope you get sick when someone blows cigar smoke in your face. I don't care if you try beer once, but I hope you don't like it. And if a friend offers you dope or a joint, I hope you realize that he is not your friend. I sure hope you make time to sit on the porch with your grandpa and go fishing with your uncle. May you feel sorrow at a funeral and the joy of holidays. I hope your mother punishes you when you throw a baseball through the neighbor's window, and that she hugs you and kisses you at Christmas time when you give her a plaster of Paris mold of your hand. These things I wish for you: tough times and disappointment, hard work and happiness. Now, are those really the things we wish for our children, for those that we work with, for those that we're responsible for, even for ourselves? Tough times? Why do we want kids, people, friends, family to go through tough times? Don't we just want to make everything easy for everybody? How about disappointment? Boy, we all have to deal with disappointment, don't we? Hard work. Boy, imagine if a kid showed up to scouting and you said, okay, here's our adventure. You're going to have tough times and disappointment and a lot of hard work. You might not recruit very many, but when they get involved, they find happiness. Happiness in service, happiness in friendship, happiness in the values and ideals of scouting. And then at the bottom he says, hard work and happiness, and then he adds, written with a pen. So that's quite exciting. That's interesting and well done. And so we move again into a little more thinking about what it is to have character. Years ago, I went down with my beautiful wife and my children to work at Camp Cherry Valley. This is a symbol of their 75th year. Camp Cherry Valley was founded in 1920. So in 1995, when we were camp directors there, one of the scout leaders of Troop 11 carved for me this beautiful sperm whale with a cherry to remind us of Camp Cherry Valley and its 75th anniversary. And that was very exciting. I loved our time down there. It was a challenge, and it was hard work, and it brought happiness. But all of the scouts at Cherry Valley arrive at the same time on a great big ferry coming over from Los Angeles port, and they come into two harbors, which is the harbor in the middle of the Catalina Island. The Catalina Island is kind of shaped like an hourglass, and at the little narrows there's a place called Two Harbors, and that's where the boats come in. We'd send the staff over there to greet them, and they'd make friends and line them up and get them all excited, and then they'd tell them stories and sing them songs, and they'd walk them back into camp, and they'd come down at the beach end of camp past the campfire bowl and along the beach, which is so beautiful, and they could see the boats and the great aquarium full of all kinds of wonderful, marvelous ideas and fishes and creatures from the sea. And then they'd come right up the middle of the Salina, that part of Cherry Valley that's partly flooded every time the tide comes in all the way, and the salt water comes in through the dike into the camp. It's an amazing thing that so many things can live in fresh water, and so many things can live in salt water, and there are things that can live in both, because the streams would run down with the fresh water and the salt water would come in. It's the Salina. And the troops would come marching up the Salina, and I would watch them from my office as they would come by. And I remember one day there came up there a troop of boys, and with them there was a young man whose name I later learned. His name was Cody. And about 10 yards behind Cody was walking his mother. Cody had a beautiful 16-year-old body. He was as fine a looking young man as you'd ever seen. And he was a great young man everywhere else, but his mind was about 3. He had about a 3-year-old mind, maybe 4. But that didn't stop him from doing everything. And his mother didn't get involved. She was just there in case of an emergency. The week progressed, and it wasn't long before everybody knew Cody, because Cody was not afraid to comment on anything that was going on. Out in front of the beautiful big dining hall there at Cherry Valley, we have the flagpoles on the parade ground, and we would line up the troops before each meal and at flag ceremony to call their names and hear their cheers and go on in to eat. And one night we were having flag retreat. It was so beautiful. Everybody's absolutely silent as the flag starts to come reverently down the pole. And all of a sudden, ringing out through the whole valley, you could hear Cody's voice. "This is so neat!" I actually do Cody's voice very well, so please enjoy it while I try to tell you the story. Cody enjoyed our program a lot. One of the things that he particularly liked was the Highlanders, based on the Highlands, which were up above there in the cherry grove, and the commissioners were called the Highlanders, and they would come down wearing kilts and bare-chested except for their sash, and they would beat each other to pulp as they were fighting and crushing the bad guys and doing all kinds of things to inspire young people to be brave and courageous. And their creative abilities were amazing. We had a wee scout that got a lot of beating, still does, and one day in the midst of the beating of the wee scout, again Cody's voice rang out over all the tumult. "I love you guys!" It was so exciting. Well, the week went round and we got to Thursday night. For years on Thursday evening, we would have the camp-wide games where everyone would come in and we'd divide the staff up and assign them different games to direct, and then we'd have the scouts rotate from game to game to game. participating often in competition against each other or with each other, if you prefer that word, as they participated in many, many activities. And one of the activities was the Indian arm wrestling. And that week, Dan Simpson was running the Indian arm wrestling. And sure enough, eventually, Cody showed up at the arm wrestling. And it was amazing how well he did. It didn't matter if it was a little scrawny boy or a big strong boy or a big strong adult. Sooner or later, they would lock with Cody, and Cody would push them down to the table, and Dan would squeeze Cody's arm. He'd say, "Cody, you're so strong." And Cody would go, "I'm so strong." And then he'd put down a couple more, and everybody in the camp was gathering around to watch Cody win round after round, and everyone was squeezing him. And Dan said to Cody, "Cody, you're the champion." "I'm the champion." Well, of course, eventually there came the kid that was not going to let Cody win. He sat down across from him, and they locked eyes, and the push began, and it wasn't long before Cody's hand went bang down to the deck. Well, everybody turned to walk away. Nobody wanted to stay to watch that jerk arm wrestle. And Cody stood up to walk away from the table. Dan went and put his arm around him to comfort him. He was expecting tears, he told me, frustration, but Cody was fine. And to Dan's query about how did he feel, he said, "It's okay to lose. It makes you strong." You know, all our lives and the lives of all those we love are full of challenges. Many times we are victorious, and those who love us support us and cheer us on. Sometimes we lose, and in those times we need to remember it's okay. It makes us strong. You know, people with challenges as great as Cody's have often come through camp, but never shown it because we didn't know, we didn't understand the challenges they faced and overcame to be there. But no one was more honest and forthright with his challenges and his battles and his victory than Cody. Cody taught us what character is. So I'm asking you to think about it. How can I develop character? How can I use scouting? How can I use life to develop character? How can I do my best? That's what we are. We're out to set an example to others of doing our best and living lives that are full of character. Thank you very much. We'll talk again soon. Good day. It's okay to win. It makes you lose. It makes you strong.